It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of October 10th, 1997. We got 8 movies to look at, a lot of movies to look at. Most of them are pretty terrible, but screw it, we're just going to go through them all. We got to get through this anyway, so I'm wasting too much time right now. Let's just jump on into it. We'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, and I say biggest in quotation marks because it isn't really that big of a movie, honestly. It's Brad Pitt starring in 7 Years in Tibet. This is the latest film from Jean-Jacques Amin, who also gave us The Lover, The Bear, The Name of the Rose, Quest for Fire. This is his latest film, and for Brad Pitt, this was one of those many attempts to try to get him an Oscar, and just like many of those attempts, this is one of those terrible ones that tried to do that. I mean, this is a film that has a lot of potential to it, but just from that trailer alone, you could pretty much tell this was an Oscar bait movie. You could tell that nobody was really looking to make a grand, serious story. No, they just wanted to make a movie to give Brad Pitt a chance to win an Academy Award, which he would eventually do later on with much better films. Argo, he won as a producer on that, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Although I would say that was not the best performance. That was not that great of a movie. His performance was fine in that, but at the same time, he should have won an Oscar for something much better than that. He's been in so many other better movies where he should have won an Academy Award. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, winning for that, that just felt like a movie that the Academy. It's one of those times when the Academy just says, you know, you've been a great actor all these years, and we don't think you're going to win for anything else. Take this Oscar for this movie where you were probably the best thing about it, but the movie itself was not as great as everyone said it is. At least in my opinion, it wasn't. But I think everybody can agree that 7 Years in Tibet was pretty bland and mediocre. It is not an engaging film whatsoever. It's a pretty boring movie, to say the least. And this director did a really great film with The Bear, where you just have a bear as the main focus of the film. He's the main character of the film, and you don't really have to do anything with human characters in it. That movie was more compelling than this movie is. Let that sink in for a little bit, because man, this is a boring film. This is a really dull film. Like, I tried to get into it. I mean, it's got music by John Williams. It's got a performance by Yo-Yo Ma, one of the greatest cellists of all time. It has David Thewlis, B.D. Wong, Mako's in the movie. And there's still nothing about it that makes it worth it. It's a pretty bland and boring movie. Like, I can't remember being so bored of watching a film in so many years. I mean, it's a movie that just has nothing really in it to make it really stand out here. The visuals aren't even all that engaging. Like, this isn't even really that great of a movie to look at. It's just a boring movie, and there's just nothing in there that makes it worth the watch at all. Like, it's a really terrible movie. It's a really boring movie, a dull film. There's nothing about it that makes it work in the end. It's just a pretty bland, forgettable movie. So, yeah, 7 Years in Tibet was not a good movie. Nor is our next movie, by the way, which is, I mean, you can tell just by the trailer alone that you're in for something really, really terrible. This is Rocket Man, and not the Rocket Man you're thinking of. No. I'd rather be talking about that Rocket Man, the Elton John biopic, than what you're about to see here. I mean, would you expect anything less from the director of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3? No joke. This is directed by Stuart Gillard, who also did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, and I'm just going to say it. They ripped off The Simpsons. The Simpsons did this concept a whole lot better, and it was much more funnier. It was much more clever. This is just the space version of Biodome, which coincidentally, this has William Sadler in it too. I mean, he was also in Biodome. Of course, he basically Walter Peck was in both this and Biodome. And he pretty much plays the exact same character. He has to deal with an obnoxious moron in this movie. And the jokes just aren't funny. It's really, really a terrible movie. It isn't clever whatsoever. It's just not engaging whatsoever. It's a really bad movie. Like, you saw that I stopped the trailer, because after that scene, it's just like, do I really need to show you anything else in this trailer to make you not want to see this movie? Like I said before, we talked about this way back at the beginning of the year in 97, that Disney was in this lull of really, really bad live-action movies. You know, this, That Darn Cat, Jungle the Jungle, and we haven't even gotten to the worst ones yet. George of the Jungle was that one little gem that they had, and then just most of this was just pretty much crap. There was a lot of crappy movies that came out during this stretch, beginning in this particular year in '97. We haven't even gotten to stuff like Flubber, Mr. Magoo, Meet the Deedles, I'll Be Home for Christmas, My Favorite Martian. Oh no! We still got a good several years of this to go, and honestly, what more do I even need to say about this movie? It isn't even that clever, and the only real surprising thing about this movie is that it's written by the same guy that gave us the Last of Us TV series and Chernobyl, Craig Mazin, and also the Hangover movies, which started off strong and then just fell off after that. But think about that. This was one of the early films from that director, from that writer, I should say, from that creator of Last of Us. Like, he has done it all: writer, director, creator, yada yada yada. I mean, Harlan Williams can be funny. I've seen him be funny in a lot of other movies, but in here, he's just playing an obnoxious twit in this movie, and you have no sympathy towards him whatsoever. And it's just like, it's a really bad movie. It's a really bad film. And like I said, it just basically rips off the Simpsons episode where Homer goes into space. And I mean, that's much more funny and more clever than this movie will ever be. I mean, it's just not an engaging film. It's not that intriguing. It's not that interesting. It's not that funny. Even when I saw this movie coming out in theaters, I was like, I'm never gonna go see this movie because this looks completely horrible. And this is an 8-year-old me saying this, but what more do I gotta say, man? Rocket Man, it looks absolutely horrible. Just give me the Elton John biopic already, because that's the better movie with this title. So, with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is No, this movie would have been better if it had Keanu Reeves. Then again, maybe not. Keenen Ivory Wayans and Jon Voight in Most Wanted. Keenen Ivory Wayans just go back to being funny again, man, because I'm sorry, you're not an action guy. Like, I know you've been trying to do this now for the last couple of years with A Low Down Dirty Shame, and then you had The Glimmerman last year with Steven Seagal, but this is just pushing it. And he wrote this too. Like, he really thought to himself that he was going to be the next big action star, and he's just not. I mean, he's a funny dude. I'm going to Get You, Sucker, and Living Color. I mean, like I hope it's like, I'm glad he got away from this type of stuff shortly after this, because then he did the Scary Movie films, which took him back to the comedic part of his career. And I mean, not everything after that was great, but it's certainly a lot better than it. Certainly, I would appreciate more of those than any of these movies where he's trying to be the next big action star, and he's just not. And he just picks these really terrible scripts that are so generic, so bland, so mediocre. It's got a good cast involved here. Jon Voight in one of his many failed movies where he's embarrassing himself and not even trying. Jill Hennessy's in this from Law and Order. Paul Sorvino, Robert Culp, Eric Roberts, Simon Baker. Really good people being wasted in a film that is so generic, so forced, and judging by what happens in this movie, I'm pretty sure there's a certain party out there that would love to see this happen in real life. I'm not saying who, but I think you can get a good idea what that is. But I digress. Yeah, the movie is terrible. This is another film that's not really all that great, and I'm glad that Keenen Ivory Wayans got out of trying to be the next big action hero after this movie, because stick to comedy, man. I mean, that's really where you're the best at when you're funny. I mean, like I said, not everything you did was great, but at the same time, you're at least trying. So, but at least you're trying on that front. But anyway, so that's Most Wanted. Let's go ahead and move on to the next movie we have here, and that is James Belushi and the final film performance of Tupac Shakur in Gang Related. Of course, the story behind this is that this was the final film that Tupac Shakur was in before his death. This actually was shot over a month before his death. It was shot over a period of a month in August of '96, and wrapped filming just 2 weeks before Tupac died on September 13th of the year before. And it's another one of those movies where you look at it and you wonder to yourself, if John Belushi was still alive, would he take on a role like this? Because you see Jim Belushi in here, and you know what? The movie actually isn't that bad. It's actually kind of interesting to see Belushi and Shakur working off each other. It's a story about two corrupt cops who attempt to frame the homeless man, played by Dennis Quaid, for the murder of this undercover DEA agent that they themselves had actually killed. So it's actually a really interesting film. I was actually really surprised at how much I actually kind of enjoyed this film, because the movie overall just feels like a film that really shows the potential of Tupac Shakur at his acting best, and it shows that Jim Belushi has a lot of range as an actor. There's been some movies that we talked about where he tried to be more of a dramatic actor, and not a lot of them really worked here. But in this case, you actually have a really good script. This is written by Jim Koof, who also wrote Stakeout. He also was the director of Disorganized Crime. He also wrote The Hidden. He later wrote Rush Hour, and then stuff like Operation Dumble Drop, Up the Creek, Money Monster. He's been a solid writer over the years, and this is a film that actually I think a lot of people should really take another look at, because I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed this film. Like, I thought it was actually a pretty solid movie. It's kind of like a sort of a precursor to something like End of Watch, in a way where it's not technically the same movie as End of Watch, but you can see a lot of similarities in that movie that would eventually be better presented in that movie than they were in this film. I thought the film worked pretty well. I thought it was actually one of the big surprises I've seen in a long, long time looking at these movies here. I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed it. And, like I said, it's a shame that we never got to see more of what Tupac Shakur could do as an actor, because this really could have been the beginning of something bigger for him had he not been killed. And it's a really good movie, man. I'd say definitely check it out. It's actually a very underrated movie, in my opinion. It's a film that I did not think was going to be any good whatsoever, but I was actually really surprised by what I saw here. I'd say definitely check it out. And all things considered, it's one of the stronger films we've looked at so far this week. But we're starting to get now to the more notable films, the actual decent films. And starting off with our next movie that we have here, and that is Parker Posey in the House of Yes. I mean, just in concept alone, this is pretty fascinating. I mean, I know a lot of people didn't like it when it came out, but it's a very interesting film. You have this mentally unbalanced young woman played by Parker Posey, who is convinced she's Jackie Kennedy, who flies into a murderous rage when her brother returns home to reveal that he is engaged. And the premise alone is very bizarre, but at the same time, I'm kind of fascinated by it. And I saw a little bit of this movie. I didn't see the whole thing of it, but I gotta say, man, like, Parker Posey really is giving it her all in this movie. I mean, she really is probably the strongest thing about the film from the little bits that I've seen from it. Like I said, I haven't seen the whole thing, but she's playing this all too well. Like, I think she actually probably is the strongest thing about this movie, and she gives it her all, man. I mean, it's a funny movie. It's hard to make movies like this a hit. I mean, you have a movie here that's trying to make incest sexy, and that's a really, really hard thing to do for obvious reasons. I mean, Cruel Intentions was a big hit, but even in Cruel Intentions, that stuff still doesn't really work out that well here. And now I was thinking that Freddie Prinze Jr. was also in Cruel Intentions, because he's in this movie. But I'm thinking of Ryan Felipe. But like I said, I haven't seen this movie in full. I've only seen the little bits and pieces of it, and Parker Posey probably looks like she's probably the funniest thing about the movie. And she was just coming off a Party Girl a couple years prior to this, and slowly but surely building her name. But other than that, though, I've never seen the rest of the movie, so I don't know if it's any good or not. It's based off of a play by Wendy McLeod, and it's directed by Mark Waters, who would later go on to direct more successful films like Freaky Friday, Mean Girls, Just Like Heaven, Spiderwick Chronicles, Ghost of Girlfriend's Past. So he has made some decent movies since then. But as far as this film goes, from the little bits I've seen from it, it looks like it could be a huge mixed bag, but it looks like Parker Posey probably is the strongest thing about the movie. And yeah, so that's my thoughts on that one. So with that said, on to the next movie, and that is probably the best overall movie from this week, and that is Paul Thomas Anderson's Boogie Nights. Easily the best movie that came out this week, and you basically have a story taking place in the late 1970s. It follows the Los Angeles' San Fernando Valley, and you follow this dishwasher played by Mark Wahlberg, who becomes a star of pornographic films, chronicling his rise from the golden age of porn in the 70s to his fall during the excesses of the 1980s. And of course, that's what, like I said, Mark Wahlberg is playing him, and this is based off of a mockumentary short film by Paul Thomas Anderson called The Dirk Diggler Story, which actually came out 10 years prior to this movie's release. In addition to Mark Wahlberg, you see Julianne Moore, Burt Reynolds, Don Cheadle, John C. Reilly, William H. Macy, Philip Seymour Hoffman, and Heather Graham. And Heather Graham in this movie, oh, good lord, she is a beauty in this movie. I mean, like, I mean, her nude scene in this movie alone makes it worth the watch. I mean, like, it's one thing to get naked in a movie, but the way she just does it and just has no regret whatsoever, and just does it within a matter of seconds, it's just like that sticks with your head for a long time. If you saw this movie back in the day, like I did when I saw this movie for the first time on DVD about 10 years after it came out, it was just like, whoa, hello there. I could see why you were picked for the star in Austin Powers too, but on top of that, though, you got Nicole Parker in here, and a lot of other notable names in here. Luis Guzman's also in here. Thomas Jane, Robert Downey Sr.'s in here. Nina Hartley, Melora Waters, Alfred Molina, Joanna Gleason, Lauren Holloman. It's just a fun movie. The acting overall is well done. Mark Wahlberg is great in this. Burt Reynolds and Julianne Moore are fantastic. They both got Oscar nominations for this, and rightfully so. The writing is top-notch. The comedy is very well done. The dramatic moments are nicely well done. It just is a really damn good movie. It's just an amazing, amazing film that I go back and watch every once in a while. And every time I'm always like, this is still probably his greatest film as a director. And Paul Thomas Anderson has made a lot of really great films. I mean, Magnolia is a great film. Punch Drunk Love, brilliant film. That's probably my second favorite movie from his. There Will Be Blood. Inherent Vice is a very underrated movie in my opinion. I really liked his last movie, Licorice Pizza. He's just a great director, and he's certainly a lot better than the other director who unfortunately shares the same first and last name, but keeps directing terrible movies and tries to convince us that his wife is actually worth something. And I'm sorry, Mila Jovovich is not a good actress. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna keep saying it. She sucks as an actress, but we're not talking about that. We're not talking about her right now. And what are we talking about? Boogie Nights. But let's go back to the good Paul Thomas Anderson. And like I said, man, Boogie Nights is it's one of those must-see movies. Like, if you want to see a great, great film from the 1990s, this is definitely one that must be seen. It's definitely high up on the list here. I don't know if it's necessarily in my top 10, honestly. I'd have to look back on it, but it's definitely in the top 20. It's just a great, great film. Can't recommend it enough. Boogie Nights, terrific film. So with that said, on to the next movie. Another really good movie from this weekend. Uma Thurman starring in The Sweet Hereafter. Well, I just realized my mistake. That is not Uma Thurman in this movie. I know I said Uma Thurman's in this, but no, that is not her. That is actually Sarah Polley, who just won the Oscar this year for Women Talking, and she's going to do the new Bambi movie. And she's been an actress for a long, long time. She was in the Zack Snyder Dawn of the Dead movie. So I apologize to Sarah Polley. I'm sorry I got you confused with Uma Thurman, but regardless. It's going to make it hard for me to talk about this movie now. This is Adam Egoyan, who gave us Exotica. This is his follow-up to that film, based off the novel of the same name, and it tells the story of the school bus accident in the small town that kills 14 children, and the class action lawsuit follows, providing divisive issues in the community and becoming tied with personal and family issues. You see the cast in there. Besides Sarah Polley, you have Ian Holm, Maury Chaykin, Bruce Greenwood, Gabriel Rose, Alberta Watson. Just a really good cast in this movie, and a really engaging storyline. Like, it's a really intense movie. Like, it really does keep you on the edge of your seat, thinking, how is this going to work out in the end? And you get invested by it. You get invested by everything that goes on in this movie, because you get so attached to the characters and the situations that they end up going through here. The performances in this movie are really, really damn good. I mean, Ian Holm in this film is fantastic. I think this is one of his strongest performances. He's always been a terrific actor, and Bruce Greenwood really is splendid in this film. Sarah Polley, I know I confused you for Uma Thurman, but I remember that she actually was really good in the film. I mean, she shows what her range. Like, she's not only a great writer and director, but she was a great actress back in the day. I mean, to do this and then follow that up with Dawn of the Dead, and then being in stuff like The Adventures of Baron Munchausen and Go and Splice, and just these other movies here. I mean, she's got a lot of talent. That she's definitely one of the more underrated entertainers working in the business. And this is an engaging movie. It's probably maybe my second favorite film Adam Egoyan has done, behind Exotica. I think it is a really investing movie. It's a really great film, a really good film taking place in the snow. it's everything that I like about the movies like this. I mean, I like movies that take place in the snow. Like the sight of winter is just something that's really incredible to look at, and this movie is definitely one of the best examples of it. If you have not seen the Sweet Hereafter, I'd highly recommend checking that one out. So, on to the last movie that we have here, and that is called Lily. So this is a film where a bishop comes to prison to hear the confessions of an old friend. He's forced to watch a play performed by the inmates about their youth together, love and betrayal, and it's another one of these movies that you can tell that there's more of an emphasis of gay people and lesbian couples and LGBTQ in these movies that we've been talking about, because we've been getting more and more of these, specifically in the last couple of weeks and months that we've delved into the movies on here. As far as this one goes, I've never seen it, so I don't know if it's any good or not. It got a lot of awards when it came out. It was nominated for 14 Genie Awards, which is basically the Canadian version of the Academy Awards, and it won Best Picture. Yeah, I don't really know for certain if it's any good or not, but when you get those type of awards, I mean, that usually means you have something of quality, one would think. But yeah, other than that, though, I don't really know too much about this one, so I don't really know if it's any good or not, but came out this weekend, so that's Lily's. So with that said, that wraps up another edition of Time About the Movies. When we meet next time, more interesting movies to talk about, including I Know What You Did Last Summer, Al Pacino and Keanu Reeves in The Devil's Advocate, the feature film debut, the American feature film debut for Bean, the Rowan Atkinson character Mr. Bean, in Bean the movie, and we also have Playing God, Telling Lies in America, and Breaking Up. So 6 movies to look at next time around. We will delve into those on the next episode, and then some, actually 7 movies, because I see Happy Together, which actually was supposed to come out this weekend, but this is the first time I'm seeing it on this list. So 7 movies once again to look at next time around, and we will delve into all of those and then some on the next episode. So until then, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and as always, hit that like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this. So, with that said, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. And until then, as always, take care.